Hi Moonies, welcome to the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast. I'm your host, Victoria L. Johnson, and I'm here with Rayven, aka MuvaPrincess. She's a sex worker, Ph.D. student, and a bell hook superfan, and of course, a Sailor Moon superfan. I'm so excited to talk to her. Hey Rayven.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast.
Thank you again for having me. I know there's not a lot of us out there, but we got to stick together.
Yes, definitely. I am so excited to talk to you, and we definitely have to stick together. So, the first question I ask everyone is, what's your first memory of watching Sailor Moon?
Oh my gosh, my first memory. I vaguely remember, kind of vaguely remember seeing it on Toonami when I was like super itty bitty, but like making the active choice to watch it. We used to go to Family Video. I don't know if the kids nowadays like remember that, but there used to be those video rental stores, and we used to go there every Friday for me as a treat, me and my family. And I remember the first Sailor Moon like VHS that I like rented. It wasn't even an episode. It was actually, I'm pretty sure, the first movie, the one where it was like the aliens.
Yeah,
and I remember just like the colors and like I didn't really know what was going on, you know. But that was for me like the first time I intentionally was like, I want to look at this.
yeah, it's definitely the first movie. I think it's Promise of a Rose. It's great.
Yep,
so good. Where is this, like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, or is this some other?
This was Family Video.
Oh, it's called Family Video. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's dope. So how did you feel and what were you thinking as you were watching this movie?
I want to say I was in first grade. So I can't remember exactly what I was feeling, but I remember I've always been the type of girl growing up where like there's a lot of girls who will tell you, you know, I don't really like girly stuff. I like tomboy stuff. And like shout out to them, but I was a girly girl. Like I still am. Like I was watching, you know, Totally Spies, Powerpuff Girls, like just me seeing girls in general was like that was it for me. Whether it was live action, like That's So Raven, or a cartoon or anime.
Right. That was a great thing.
And I remember I just remember being transfixed by it. I just loved seeing like pretty girls like doing anything.
Yeah, that's what I love about Sailor Moon and Totally Spies and Powerpuff Girls is they were like able to be pretty but also like badass.
Yes, definitely. It wasn't like, you know, and I know Sailor Moon is less about like the fighting and more about the relationships and a lot of like brightly colored rainbow attacks. But for me as a youngin, that was entertaining enough. And I'm gonna be honest, it's still entertaining to me now.
It is. It is. You can be totally honest about all your Sailor Moon feelings here.
Sailor Moon feelings. A concept, Sailor Moon feelings.
Yes. You can like this is the place for you to just air out all your feels. No judgment whatsoever.
Good, because I get a lot of judgment from my friends.
Oh man, well, boo them. Did you have a favorite Sailor Scout or Senshi?
Yes, so I really enjoy. I think when I was younger, I just liked Sailor Moon, but once I made the intention, like around middle school, where I actually started like for real, watching anime, and started watching it kind of from the beginning with like, you know, the subtitles and stuff like that. I really enjoy Chibi-Usa. Like she's my favorite. And when I found out that like the fandom kind of don't be rocking with her, I was so offended. I was like, I absolutely love her. She's the youngest, obviously, you know, she's from the future, but I feel like at times she represents exactly what the show is like about like she's the consequence of the show. We see a lot of like them grappling with friendship and with love, and then she's a literal manifestation of like what happens when they continue to love.
Right. That's such a good point. Yeah, I love that description. I never thought of it that way. I never had like this or that feelings for Chibiusa. I'm more appreciating her now. I've always liked her though. I was surprised that people didn't like her when I got older and realized that. But now in my more recent rewatches, I've been like, yeah, she's like pretty cool.
Right. And I feel like with the whole Black Lady art, like that's probably what made her like my favorite. Like what other Sailor Scout can say they went through something like that excluding the live action version in Sailor Mercury, right?
Right.
Like,
That's a good
who else
point.
can say they went through a dark transformation and they had to come back?
Yeah, and go through that whole psychological like she was brainwashed into thinking like no one cares about her. Like that's a lot of trauma to go through.
Right. Like they forgot about her birthday, and we forget
Mhm.
that even though she's technically 900 years old, she's still psychologically like 5 or 6 when we first meet her, if
Right.
not younger. I'm pretty sure.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think you're right because I think she's like in kindergarten or something
Yeah, she's
when she.
super young, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I feel like people don't give my girl a lot of credit.
I agree. You're right on that for sure. I never thought of it that way, so I completely agree. When was the next time you watched Sailor Moon after Promise of a Rose?
After that, it was constantly going to Family Video, getting more and more rentals. At that point, like, this was way back in the day, I would go to the thrift store and I was a big reader. So I would get a whole bunch of books from the thrift store because wasn't nobody finna pay no $20 for no hardcover book at Borders. And so
Mhm.
one day at the thrift store, there was a stack of Sailor Moon VHSs
Oh my
that I guess
gosh.
somebody had just donated.
Right.
There was also some like strawberry shortcake VHSs, Care Bear VHSs. So I got all of that, and they were like 10 cents each or something, like something stupid cheap because I got all of
Oh
them.
my god.
And so then it was less about, oh, we're going to Family Video, so I could watch one of the same 5 VHS tapes they have, and now I had access to all of these VHS tapes, which, looking back, it wasn't a lot because the original, English dub was like pretty short.
Yeah.
But as a kid, it just felt like it was so much, and I started watching that all the time. I don't um I don't remember all the VHS tapes, but I do remember what I think it was the third season. It was the one where they were taking the crystal hearts and there was
Oh, okay.
like out of people. That was most of those like VHS tapes.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely season 3. I didn't even know there were season 3 VHS tapes. So wow, because I've only
Yeah, and
seen
I
the first
remember
season.
it
Yeah.
because I remember the sound effect that they would do when they would show that little like white thing beating. Like when it would make that weird. I
The
remember that
heart.
sound effect so vividly, and it sounded
Wow.
so disgusting.
It's so funny how things stick out in our head. Like,
Yeah, the original voice actor for I forget his name, but the guy with the glasses, like he was top tier. They should have kept him
oh,
when they
Professor
redubbed
Tomo.
it. Yes,
He,
they should have definitely kept the original voice actor.
yeah, he's good. He was really good. Yeah, a lot of the original voice actors are really good. It's hard to duplicate, but yeah. Now, you mentioned to me that you have thoughts on Bell Hooks's work, on how Radical Love engages with Sailor Moon. So I just tell me more.
Yeah, so this isn't anything that I've like published or
Mhm.
even really gotten a chance to like workshop with other people because nobody's really familiar with Sailor Moon
Mhm.
in the way that I would need them to be to do it. So this is like my first time really like talking about it. So if it's a little scattered, bear with me.
No, go
But
for it.
like, Bell Hooks, like, at the turn of the millennium, she kind of like had this call to action where she wanted the nation, the US, to like, sort of return to love, like this statement of returning to love. And, she was saying we may never find home again because we've left or lost love.
Mhm.
And, I feel like that's what Sailor Moon is about, like returning to love, the love of our past, present, and future selves. And, we can see this kind of like with the Senshi and, their friendship, because that's like the core of the series.
Mhm.
And then we see that with their subsequent like romantic relationships from, thousands of years ago.
Right.
And then it's like reclaimed and refound in modern day Tokyo.
Mm.
And then going back to why I love Chibi-Usa, we see it again with her because she's a symbol for what happens when people do return to love, like, her sheer existence,
Mhm.
and this concept of like justice, like, Bell Hooks says that like love can't exist without justice, like they have to both like coexist at the same time for them to both be valid. And Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon, like their love is able to exist because of justice, and I would even argue that their love just straight up is justice.
Yeah.
And so they routinely save the world because their love is like so sure and so pure and so powerful. And it's just, just. And Hooks, with her comments about love not existing without justice, like the moment justice is disrupted in the series, whether there's a big bad and, Tuxedo Mask always getting kidnapped or brainwashed, their love like is disrupted as well because there's no more justice.
Right. Oh man, that was good. Also, like, it's funny how you say that because, like, that's kind of like this one of the Sailor Moon taglines, where she's like, love and justice.
Right, like that's literally like the guardian of love and justice,
right.
like and then like also the concept of love as renewal, like Hooks talks about that too, and we see love on the show like constantly like renewing people and reviving people. My favorite example of that is in my favorite season, Sailor Moon Super S, where it's like the Amazon trio, and this whole time they're like evil. Of course, they're like looking for the golden mirror, and then kind of at the end of their arc, around like the middle of the season, Pegasus like gives them enough life and gives them enough love to where they're reborn as like pure innocent beings, because they finally let love take over. And Pegasus is forgiveness, and I'm sure the Sailor Scouts like forgiveness as well.
Yeah, and also like one of my favorite arcs is like the Black Moon Clan, where because they kind of have like the same other thing where they're kind of forgiven and like through Sailor Moon's love for them and like belief that they can be good, they themselves believe they can be good and like become better people and like embrace love over hate.
That's such like a reoccurring like theme, to the point where a lot of Sailor Moon's attacks, especially in the earlier seasons, aren't really like hurting anyone. It's literally showering them with love, and then they're no longer evil.
Yeah, or healing them.
Right, healing them, because evil is seen as this thing that takes over the body that love can cure.
Right. Yeah.
And then the last season stars. I mean, Usagi's final like angelic form, like that goes back to the whole rebirth, renewal, revival, and reset.
Yeah, that always will be the like season that blows my mind, just because like seeing Sailor Galaxia like kill everyone that she loves, and for her to still be like, I see good in you, I want to help you, like I'm not gonna destroy you. I'm not gonna fight you.
Right, yeah. Like I'm not gonna fight you. Like there are times where I watch the last 2 episodes, like, because it's so sad. Like,
yeah, it blew my mind. I think that was like the first time I've seen that on a show or a movie or anything, just because like that idea of total forgiveness, even if someone like did so many evil things against you, like in any other show they'd be like, oh no, this person is evil, like it's time to like, you have to like defeat them, and it's like you don't forgive them, you don't like still want them to be okay.
Right, not at all. And it really did, there were magical girl series before Sailor Moon, of course, but Sailor Moon really set the tone for the magical girl series that we have today, and even of the 90s, whether it's Wedding Peach, whether it's Pretty Cure, even looking at like dark magical girl series like Madoka Magica, like has elements of like, concept of forgiveness and life and death. Like it really set the tone for it to still be about friendship and of course girl power, but having those themes be central.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Sailor Moon does a really good job on it. Well, maybe not a good job, but like that might be the right phrase. But like, because when you think about it, it is kind of as dark as Madoka Magica when you talk about like Sailor Moon seeing her friends, the Senshi die in like the first season, and like having to deal with this like her losing her her childhood in a way. Like she's a 14 regular old girl, she wants to be a regular teenager, and now she has like all this responsibility put on her. And then like you said, like with Chibi-Usa and her having to deal with like being brainwashed and traumatized, like it's a lot when you think about it, but it's seen as such a like happy show to a degree that you kind of don't notice just how much they're really going through.
And I think any Sailor Moon super fan like us or people listening to this podcast, like we get that. And that's why we love it. That's why we return to it. We return to love a little bit too, but people that in my personal life, I'll try to like get them involved in the show. And I get it, like looking at it from the outside and then seeing how many episodes there are And when I stress that even though there's a lot of filler, you still need to watch every single episode, I can
Mm-hmm.
see people, they're just like, you know what, this is not for me. Like there are times where I've gotten like high off shrooms, and I've tried to like watch I've tried to watch Sailor Moon with my friends, and they're also off shrooms, and they're like, I'm not gonna lie to you, girl, I'm not feeling this.
Oh my
And I'm
god.
like, you don't feel the emotions? Like this is so like powerful. Like I be feeling at one with the universe when I watch Sailor Moon off a shroom trip.
I probably would too, because like just the transformations alone, I'm just trying to imagine. Or even like the monsters, like it would freak me out probably.
No, that, and then
Yeah.
I made the mistake. I watched the episode where Mamoru and Usagi broke up, and he said, "I don't date weak
Oh my
girls."
god.
And I was off of shroom. I was off shrooms, and I was like, "Yeah, like this is really touching my heart." Like I was like, I cannot believe he did this for a stupid reason at that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that
yeah, like other people don't really understand the deepness of the show because it's a lot of colors and a lot of short skirts and
right.
bows and hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not much like fist to fist fighting. Yeah,
Right.
but it's still like it's great.
So
Yeah. And then so you also mentioned that you are studying in your PhD work, Black sex workers and legal theory. I don't know enough about either of those, so also tell me more.
very much so still in the early stages.
Okay.
But I'm trying to reimagine like what the world would look like if we centered black sex workers at the center of everything. Like,
Mm,
the way that I see black sex workers and the way that I engage with them, especially being one, I see them as the source of all creativity, all pain, all good and all bad. Like they're literally everything. And I feel like we can learn a lot from them. And then I just sometimes think of like, almost in a like anime type of way, like what would justice look like if black sex workers were able to be the center of law?
mm,
Like would justice be just this thing that would exist, plainly, or would we still have to fight for it if they were the center of laws? And so, those are some like real deep questions.
yeah.
And then the research methods I'm trying to do are a lot of arts based, research methods.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's autoethnography, which is like somebody's own reflections of something. And I feel like that would be valid with me because I'm a black sex worker, even though I don't speak for all of them,
Mm-hmm.
using that as a research method. And then also, toying with this idea of maybe writing a short novel or a short play, as a research method. I'm trying to get away from the numbers because numbers, I mean, you just type in black sex workers on Google Scholar and you just see rates of HIV, rates
Wow.
of murder, all these like horrible things. And it's like such a negative outlook. And there's enough of that. There's so much more to the story with black sex workers. And I feel like getting to those stories all starts with centering them in the law, rebuilding society with them and their needs at the forefront, and trying to constantly undo our own biases about sex work and deviance. I look a lot at the sociological term of deviance.
A deviant? Like,
hmm
okay.
like somebody, so the sociological term of deviance is basically like, it strays from white, cis, hetero, patriarchal ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, black girls are already considered deviant because we're black and we're not men.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not white and we're not men. So, we're already there.
Yeah,
But,
consider fast or like whatever. What else do they say?
right,
Yeah.
we're all these things that
Mm-hmm.
are straying from these, like, wasp like descriptions of what women should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then black sex workers would be even more deviant because of the way that they perform their sexuality, the way they engage with the law, which is usually outside the law because sex work is sadly still illegal,
Right.
and the way that we engage with promiscuity, and I kind of want to reimagine what promiscuity is. Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? And how can we make it something that's not like negative?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
look at I read a lot of literature about black sex workers, but I also read a lot of literature about black respectability. Like I got to know it in order
Mm.
to kind of like go against it. So there's a book I'm currently reading. man, I forget the whole title, but I think it's Our Kind of People,
Oh, I've heard of
I
that.
believe.
Yeah.
Right, and it's about the black bougie,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a lot of interesting, I don't I don't necessarily agree with the author's viewpoint on a lot of things, but I think it's a lot of interesting information talking about how black people try to be respectable as a form of survival, particularly black women, and that's even more deeply explored with Dr. Muriel Miller Young's A Taste for Brown Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically all about black porn stars, which is very rare to find a book about like black sex workers, right?
Right.
But in her book, she talks a lot about how black women specifically, at the turn of the century, like they didn't want to be harmed, so they formed these, Christian groups that, looking at it now in a modern day context, we're like, wow, this is like pretty respectability. But for them, it was like, if we get a group of black girls and we teach them to straighten their hair, and we teach them to talk like how white people talk, and we teach them these rules of whiteness,
Mm-hmm.
we can infiltrate and finally be safe, finally have upward mobility. And we see that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Surprise, it
And it
does not
never
work.
has. Right, and it never will work. Like, that's the
Right.
sad part. Like, it will never work. But understanding that it's used as a form of survival, like,
Mm-hmm.
gives me a lot more empathy and understanding for the black girls who are not like other black girls.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard because I feel like every group is just trying to do their best to try and deal with white supremacy, and it's just like, you know, everything is like, you just got to dismantle it and rebuild. Everyone's like, let's try respectability politics, let's try this thing, let's try this thing, and it's like, yeah, nothing really works.
Exactly. We need to Moon Tiara action
Yes.
all of like society right now. We just need to
Yeah.
restart.
Or pick a Sailor Saturn attack.
No, right. We really need her. Like, to just destroy it all.
Just like use her thing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's so cool. It actually reminds me, it's funny, I randomly read this recently. This, I think she's an economist, Janelle Jones, and she has this theory on like called Black Women Best, where it's kind of like similar, where it's like if you center it, because Black women are the most like marginalized community and like the most, community that's harmed, if you center them in policies, then like it benefits everybody else, because if you're like making law that helps like the people who are most vulnerable, it just easily helps everyone else. Like it just, like a ripple effect. So yeah.
Definitely. And by centering black sex workers,
Mm-hmm.
who are considerably outside the law because the way that they live and the things they
Right.
perform and do are outside the law, you're really getting to the issues with like legal theory, or the issues with the law,
Mm-hmm.
which is that, people who exist outside the law, people who the law doesn't consider people at all, have never really had rights. And even though I'm talking about all this black sex work and like Sailor Moon and bell hooks and Muriel Miller Young, I really get a lot of like my understanding of systems of oppression and legal theory from education. Like, that's my background: education, policy, organization, and leadership.
Mm.
And so a lot of that, with combined with critical race theory, informs my understanding, of how we need to center certain groups in order to truly achieve a just society.
Right. Well, I am very excited to read your dissertation whenever it is in the world.
Girl, I'm gonna be excited to write it.
So much good luck on your what is it called? You have to like argue, I think. Forgot what it's
Yeah,
called.
when you have to defend it, and
Defend,
then
right.
I have to pass prelims. So right now I'm doing the fun part. I just get to research and
Oh,
just
okay.
read
Yeah, I like the research
and
part.
just learn.
That's what I like. Yeah, research and write. I don't want to do nothing else.
I just want to stop there.
Yeah, no coursework. I get it. And I think you might have answered this already, but maybe haven't. What do you think is the biggest misconception about sex work?
Oh, the biggest misconception.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest misconception is that sex work is this. I think there are two big misconceptions, and they're on two sides of the spectrum. people see sex work as this only feminist empowering thing that super duper feminist girls do, or on the other end they see it as, these victims who just can't escape, and they just can't get out, and this is what they have to do because they have no other choice. And I think those are two of the biggest misconceptions, because it's both. Like, it's never either or. Sex work is work.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
it is it is work. It is the same thing, as clocking in to TJ Maxx for a shift where you get paid a very low wage. The only difference is what we do is illegal, but we also have days where we don't want to wake up and we don't want to talk to our clients.
Right.
We are running our own business, so there are days where I don't even talk to clients that heavily, or don't even have a client, but I just spent 6 or 7 hours rebuilding my website. Or, for people who are like that, so that I'm a full service sex worker, but even for people who are not full service, meaning they don't have sex with their clients, like strippers or doms, like that's still a lot of emotional work. So there are days where we don't want to wake up and we don't want to get to bed. We are tired. It is labor. It's okay to be tired of doing labor to live. And so there's also, days where it does feel super empowering though, where it's like, I just got done seeing a client and I paid off my rent, and I get to put a little aside for a car note for a new computer. And I would have had to put in 3 or 4 weeks at customer service job to do that. And I just made that in 2 or 3 hours. So there are some days where it does feel super important. And then, I'll be honest, I've had some horrible things happen to me along the way, and I'm very happy to be alive and to have survived those things. But there are days where I do feel like a victim, and where I feel unprotected by the law, as well as, by my community, not sex workers per se, but, Black men, or even Black women who make comments about, OnlyFans girls or sex workers online. Like, there are moments where I do just feel alone and I do feel trapped. So I think the biggest misconception is that sex work is this like one or the other thing, when it's a multitude of everything. And a lot of that starts with people just not seeing sex work as work. They don't see it as work. They see it as something other than work. What they see it as, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But they definitely don't see it as work.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, well, I won't say it's like a lot of things, but I feel like a lot of people downplay, especially a lot of jobs that women are typically the ones doing. If I don't know, that might be wrong, but like
Oh
stay-at-home
yeah.
moms, teachers, sex workers,
Oh yeah. There's
like they're like,
a
oh, it's
long
easy.
there's a long rich history um in the earth, on earth,
Yeah,
in every nation, of
literally.
people devaluing work that women traditionally have done. And
Right.
then we see often, even when men enter into those fields or into those lines of work, they still, like, even though women have been doing it for centuries, when they get in, they bypass a lot of the sexism. And sometimes they even get paid more, because we see with, male sex workers and sex workers who are sex workers who identify as men, and who cis men specifically, they, are real quick to hop on the justice for sex workers train, this, that, and the third. But when they get into an argument or a disagreement with a woman sex worker, all of a sudden, this, you a hoe, you selling it for $5, and it's like, I thought we were in community together. Like, how you come up in my field where it's bitches that look like me, and you making more money than me, and you're spewing shit at me? Like, how does that happen?
Right. Yeah, I mean, sadly, that is, like you said, a pattern that's been going off since the beginning of Earth. And
Since the
probably
beginning,
beyond.
girl. Beyond what we even know. So yeah, that happens in all fields of work, but it's present in sex work too.
Right. Yeah. No, I, yeah. How did you get into sex work?
Yeah, so I actually I think a lot of people have stories when they're college students of being broke and like wanting to get a little extra cash. And while the extra cash didn't hurt, it definitely wasn't my story, and I don't feel like I should even pretend like it is. I was in an abusive relationship with a woman, and after that, in the relationship, I was sexually assaulted.
Oh, wow.
And after that, I had a hard time connecting with people emotionally as well as sexually. I felt like every time somebody wanted to have sex with me, I had to get something from it where, like, because in case they took something, I could still leave it and say, I got this. You didn't
Hmm.
take it all from me. And I don't know what I was doing, but I was on Twitter one day, and it was some girl talking about financial domination. And I clicked it. It was a little hashtag, and I clicked it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" It was titties, it was ass shaking, it was all of this. It was yelling at men. I think that's what attracted me. It was a lot of yelling at
Mm.
men, calling them losers, and people would get money from it. And I was like, "Yo, I could definitely do this." So I started the summer of 2018, and I was pretty successful with that. Like the first week, I think I made like $300, which back then, I didn't really have a concept of what you could make during sex work. So that was
Hmm.
like the big bucks to me. And I'm going to be honest, I mean, I made it in like 1 hour. So it's still
Yeah, that's
pretty much
good.
big bucks to me, to be honest.
Mm.
But I was just so enamored. And then on that side of Twitter, because this is all on the side of Twitter, it's sex work side of Twitter, just like how it's Black Twitter.
Mhm.
And so some girl said something about escort, and I was like, I've heard that before. What is that? And then like it was like these ads and these links, and again hashtags, and I was like, wow, there's more, and y'all have sex for real with these people, and y'all make like a stack for like 90 minutes doing it. I gotta get into this. So I started being a full service sex worker. I started having sex with men for money. Um, whether you want to call me a sugar baby, whether you want to call me an escort, whether you want to, call me any of those.
Mhm.
I have sex with men for money.
Sex worker,
And
yeah.
right, like I have sex with men for money.
Mhm.
And yeah, from that point on, I made a website, I have business cards. I was at first mostly online, like that was how I found a lot of my clients, using sites like Eros or, the new site Tris,
Mhm.
things like that. But then eventually, I started feeling myself and I started just going freestyling, which is, old school, going into a hotel bar, sitting down and talking real nice and, going home with some bread. And here I am now, it's COVID. So I'm trying to, you know, keep it keep it as safe as possible. Like I'm in an area
Mhm.
where there's a lot of free testing. And so I tell my clients before you see me, you have to have gotten tested at least 2 days before.
Mhm.
And I've also stopped taking new clients. So they're just clients I know.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what I do. I can't say it's my main source of income because it really is like supplemental. Because I have a job, I'm a graduate assistant,
Right.
but it's nice, comfortable money to where I didn't feel as scared or as nervous when the pandemic came because I've been saving up all this money from sex work.
Mhm.
So all that money, I ended up giving it to a whole bunch of relief funds and like other sex workers during the pandemic just because I was like, I have this and like, mutual aid, right? But
Mhm.
that's where I am now. Like I'm just out here living,
Yeah.
doing it, sometimes not doing it. I stripped for a while. The only reason I haven't gone back is because of COVID. The way they're treating those girls is just horrible.
Mm.
You can't even dance with a mask on. And I mean, honestly, why
Oh
would you?
wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the men are still allowed to touch and all of that. So I haven't gone back to stripping because I'm
Mm.
just like, that's a lot
Yeah. Oh my
during a
god.
pandemic.
Right. Oh
But
man.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you found a way to reclaim power for yourself. Um.
yeah,
Yeah.
sex work
Mm.
definitely saved me. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, like I said, they have those stories of like, I needed money, I needed this, I needed
Mhm.
that. And I think that that's okay and that's valid too. But I was just looking to save myself. You know, um, I felt like somebody had taken something from me. And
Mhm.
because I'm a lesbian and it was a woman who sexually assaulted me, and she's also in a sorority at my university, it was this moment where I felt like not only are like not only do I feel like something was taken from me, but I feel like I'm not even in community with Black women anymore. Like,
Mm.
cause people knew that she sexually assaulted me, and like she still got into a sorority. She still, got like awards from my school, scholarships, and it was like nobody really cared. And so with sex work, not only did I reclaim my body back, but I found a new community.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and you know, you have community with me. I love you. Black
Oh,
Sailor Moon
thank you.
fans.
I'm also very happy to find this new community.
Yes, Black Sailor Moon fans. We are here for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awful. But yeah, like I said, I'm really happy you were able to save yourself and find power through sex work, through horrible situation from a horrible situation or horrible
Thank you
instance.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. On a lighter note, do you like any other anime?
Oh yes. So I'm just now kind of sort of dipping my toe into non-magical girl anime.
Mm-hmm.
But for a long time, that was kind of all I watched, like magical girl anime or anime that was like, geared toward women. I know a lot of people, they're like, I'm into anime, and then they say like Naruto, Fairy Tail, Yu Yu Hakusho,
Right.
which are all animes,
Shonen.
but it's right, it's shonen.
Mm-hmm.
It's barely any bitches in there. And so when I was watching anime, I was watching a lot of Sailor Moon, of course, Wedding Peach, Revolutionary Girl Utena, Madoka Magica, Pretty Cure, at least 4 or 5 of them, because there's quite a few Pretty Cures. Even cute little ones like, K-On, Shuffle. I mean, that was harem, but it was still a lot of girls. Vampire Princess, Miyu, like, so a lot of things where even if it isn't necessarily about girl power, there's still like a lot of girls just doing whatever. And so I kind of started, a friend put me on to Yu Yu Hakusho. They were like, "You love Sailor Moon. This is like the creator's like husband." And I was like, "Ugh, let's see what he got going on." And it's just a lot of fighting. I like the second season. I feel like there was a lot of storyline there. I enjoyed the storyline and the relationships, but yeah, it's really just a lot of like fighting and screaming.
True. I do like Yu Yu Hakusho. I feel like I compare it to like Beyonce and Jay-Z, like
no, literally.
Like it's like, it's Naoko Takeuchi's husband's anime, like when people were like Beyonce's husband like came along.
Okay. Right, like it's okay, but it's not Beyonce.
Right, like it's classic, like it's definitely, hits, like it's definitely, deserves critical acclaim that it's got and all the love that it's got, just like Jay-Z, but it's not Beyonce, it's not Sailor Moon.
Right. So I've kind of started. I was watching a little bit of some show on Netflix called Parasite. Yeah, that I don't know what that is. That's a little weird.
That was good. Yeah, it was weird,
like
but it was good.
It's super weird with the little inspirational music when he's going to kill somebody. Like it's very odd, but I've been trying to. I'm always open to suggestions. I always say it just has to have a plot line, a good plot line, and lots of good character development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. That's what I love about Sailor Moon and so many other shows.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. What else do you stan?
Oh, what else do I stan other than Sailor Moon? Let me think. Let's see. You know what? I really like Rico Nasty.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Rico Nasty. Her favorite, my favorite project of hers is Nasty. the album, that was my favorite. I enjoy like the rock screaming, emo goth kind of like, black girl thing going. Yeah.
She's also a Sailor Moon fan.
Yes, I know. And you know what? She's one of those people where I would bet she watches Sailor Moon like currently.
Definitely.
Like when she's bored, she'll definitely like go on Hulu and watch an episode.
Yeah.
And she probably watches it subbed. I don't think she even like bothered with the dub version.
You're probably right. She's probably watched it so much she probably doesn't even need like to know what's what they're saying anymore. Like she just
No,
knows
there
what's
are some
happening.
episodes. There are some episodes like if you just don't have any subtitles on and it's in Japanese, like you definitely know like the episode. You still know what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, based on the music and like the tones, I can see that. Yeah. What advice would you have for someone who wants to become a sex worker or who wants to enter into a PhD program?
Enter into a PhD program. Don't do it. See if there's a way where you can possibly do what you want to do without having to go through that type of hell. But if you do want to do it and there's nothing I can do to stop you, make sure you choose a school that has funds for you and choose an advisor who you really click with. Those two things are so important to you not only, staying in your program, but finishing successfully. And then those looking to become sex workers, do your research. I'm a big believer in pay another sex worker. Say I'll give you, $25 or ask them how much they want from you and say put me on the game. A lot of this stuff you can't read about online because it's such like a field in which things are secretive. But the girls are always more than willing to help if you give them money, because the whole premise, of sex work is pay people what they're worth. Make sure you're, utilizing their time effectively and make sure that they get something out of it. So if they have something you want, offer them something. It may not always be money. It might be I do papers for free, and I know that you're a student who's also a sex worker, so I'll do your paper or whatever. If you can give me some advice on how to get in the game, because I do that for a few people. Like they come to me and they ask me for help, and so yeah, they give me a donation, and then yeah, because you'll never be in this field and you'll never be safe unless you're in community with us.
Right. That's smart. I wish we can go back to a barter system.
Honestly, those were the days.
Yeah. But yeah, community is so important.
Very important.
Oh man, that's cool. And then just like Sailor Moon, you probably saw these on the VHS. Oh, actually, probably on the VHS tapes you had. She had a Sailor Moon says phrase at the end of every episode. What would your phrase be?
Yep.
So Sailor Rayven says, or Sailor MuvaPrincess says.
Sailor Rayven says, ignore men unless they're giving you money.
I love it.
That's probably the best tip I can give to anybody, including other men.
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah.
And watch behind your ears.
Oh, yeah. Please. Yes, and your legs.
Please. Don't let the water just run down, bro.
Yeah. I love both of those things. Those are both very solid pieces of advice. And what's next for you, and where do you want people to find you?
What's next? Honestly, I'm just, winging my way through life, looking at hot ass mess. So you can find more of that on the timeline on Twitter, which is, at MuvaPrincess. And then, yes, I have really nothing to show as far as academically other than like little conferences I've been to or, other places where I've spoke. But any work that I'll do from this point on will always be on my timeline to share with people.
Awesome. That is amazing. I can't wait to read everything that you do. I'm already excited. Like everything that you described, I was like, oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you again for coming on the show. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to, maybe some other Moonies following me, like so we can just all talk about Sailor Moon together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's gonna be a little online community of us. It's gonna be great.
For sure.